a Happy Cloud AudioToon.
A man getting bit by an alligator and he screams.
Ow! No, not an owl. The first one you did up here was much better.
It's that time again for the Further Adventures of Rune, Return of the Miggins, brought to you by Happy Cloud Media and Chrome Toothpaste. Chapter 10, High Dudgeon. The bag was removed as unceremoniously as it was placed. Fresh air rushed into his lungs, and Rune gasped in for more. He sniffed at the air, so familiar. A smell he hadn't smelled since... Ice water flooded his veins. He knew exactly where he was. Many, many fleens ago, Rune was just a wolf pup marauding through Lower Hogarth, abandoned by his brothers, the giants Gary and Freki, who effed off to muck around with Odin, the one-eyed git of wisdom. In order to survive, he was forced to partner with various lurches, like the hulking Foz-E, the bear. Gradually, he realized he was well vicious enough on his own, and with his new confidence came inspired mayhem. While awaiting execution for a mild rampage leaving a mere dozen injured, Rune's life was spared by the Witch Queen, Benni, she of the Gesserets, advisors to King Marinak Sen Sum. That would be the first Mad King. Ostensibly, Rune would be trained to serve Duke Leto the Off-Putting, but in reality, Benni and the Gesserets had other plans for him. As Rune drunkenly confessed only once to Scarlet and Dusty, every day Benni would summon me to her chambers. She sticks a needle behind my ear, says, "This is the Kareem Palm Jabbar. It's poisonous. There's always some box on the desk. There are worms in the box," she'd say. I'd stick my hands in a box, feel cold spaghetti. Another time she told me there were eyeballs in the box. Nothing but grapes. Then the daft witch told me pain is in the box, but I shouldn't fear it. Lunatic put a bloody cactus in there. Despite his best efforts, some of their teachings had penetrated his stubborn memory. There was a chant that often popped into his mind during times of stress. I will not freak out. Freaking out is pointless. It is a mood killer and the path towards ulcers. I will not freak out, but rather take a deep breath, count to 10, and get on with what needs to be done. It was called the Litany Against Freaking Out, for unoriginal reasons. At first, the Ruby Tower of High Dudgeon was simply a new rampaging ground. As a pup, Rune had been impossible to rein. The Gesserets insisted they could eventually control him, but soon found the truth of the matter. He came and went as he pleased, regardless of guards or threats of further constraint. He feared nothing and no one. Twice he escaped entirely, the second time never to return. Until today, if you can call being abducted returning. If you thought I was hard to lock up before, Rune told Benni, and let the threat hang on the air. It was all so familiar, the pitch-black throne room, Benni standing beneath the only pool of light in the center, her sisters mysterious and invisible in the shadows, watching and judging. Rune had never met another of her sisters, just their handmaidens. So many of their handmaidens, in their bathing chambers, their sleeping quarters, where they all lay together in a giant pillow pile, on a rotating platform. He shook his head to clear the memories. We have no intention of imprisoning you, Benni replied. In fact, we brought you here to bid you our final farewell. You kidnapped me to tell me you don't want to see me anymore, Rune said, voice and ears flat. Yeah, that tracks. Rune, 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 said Benni, tongue-clicking. I'm the one in the middle, you drunken bat. She ignored the insult, just as she'd ignored all the others. You never did have a clue, did you? That you were training me to be some sort of puppet messiah? Yeah, I had an inkling. Benni smiled wider. It was horrible. When she was young, Benni was already immeasurably old. A description of Benni. Humanish, bent, a woman consisting entirely of angles, save her perfectly smooth, bald, round head. The fleens had made her somehow even more bent and wizened, and impossibly balder. Her egg skull caught the light like it was signaling ships at sea. Her long raiment of emerald, now worn, color faded, as the fleens did to everything. She wore neither electric boots nor mohair suit, despite what you may have read in a magazine. Through the smile came evil words. Just so you know then, you were to be the greatest of the Gesserets. Sure, the savior of Roville. You bet. The Kweezinart Hatrack. He nodded. Terrible name. Don't mock the ancient ways. Give me some notice, because this cliched nonsense is beneath all of us. You want to rule the country? Do it. I watched a dozen monarchs come and go. Leadership ain't the cakewalk you apparently think it is. She shook her head, wagged a scarecrow finger at him. You watch the failure of men. Men who succumbed to the temptation and corruption of wizards. Men wizards. And, you weird ladies could have done better. I will not freak out. Freaking out is pointless. Benni roared in a voice Rune had never heard before. We have always done better! Of all about him, he heard, for the first time, the other Gesserets sisters echoing. Always! We were the voices in the ears of the leaders for fleens. Fleens upon fleens. But now, this country, this kingdom. She spat onto the glistening floor. We were installed to be aides to the government, and over time, they ceased heeding our counsel. Instead, they cited prophecy, the promise of the Messiah, and only then would they listen. Only to the Kweezinart Hatrack would they heed. Long-lost pieces of an unwanted puzzle began to fall into place for Rune the Gray. Ah, he nodded. You needed a mate. If it were possible to convey centuries of frustration into a single nod, that was the nod Benni returned. Inside his memory, the past folded and unfolded upon itself. So you hustled into the tumble-gown hoosegow for the first poor young sap you could find, slapped him into a brand new prison, and tried to brainwash him to do your bidding. Your brain would never wash. Sorry to disappoint you. Again, a cluck of tongue and a waggle of finger. You disappoint yourself! How so? I remained my own wolf, and I escaped you as quickly as I could, twice. We caught you the first time, brought you back in the desperate hope you'd finally listen. It was true. He'd been out in the plains of Go-Between when the Barlow lumbered over and swept him up, he and the wizard Ming-Mumble both. And when he returned to Benni, Ming-Mumble was left inside his cell to rot. So Rune always believed, until this afternoon with Mr. O and the bit about the Arklestone, which, if true, was the catalyst for the Second Cornelian War. Freaking out is pointless. It's a mood killer. It's the path towards ulcers. You were gonna ship me off to freeze at the Scar! Rune snapped, the memory bitter in his mouth and in his mind. The Scar is a fissure at the northernmost part of Gilver, separating the civilized societies from the Blasted Lands, a snow-blasted area known as the Frisier Nassoff. The Scar's guard, Stellan, Alexander, and Bill, the creepy one, have sworn to protect Gilver from any encroaching corpsicles from further north. It was cold, nasty, and they wanted to stick Rune there as punishment for his being uncontrollable. He knew it, they knew it. Only until you came to your senses, she said. We couldn't control you here. Exactly. He closed his mouth and continued to glare. At Benni, at her sisters somewhere in the darkness, at the wretched memories flooding his senses. Thinking about the wars, aren't you? Benni said, wringing her hands in sadistic delight. If only you'd listened to me, perhaps both those wars could have been avoided. I was in Thessaly when the first war started, he said, suddenly defensive. King Marinac was already 11 donuts shy of a dozen. So not freak out, I will not freak out. Take a deep breath and get on with what needs to be. The Kweezinart Hatrack could have shown him reason, she said, even in his madness. Needs to be done. Rune's temper finally boiled over. You don't know that! His voice crashed around the room, the echo just as angry. But say you're right. Say your dumb name Messiah could have talked reason into the old man's diseased brain. Let's even say that this Hatrack thing could have been so inspiring even the coalition of wizards would have bowed down to his superior rationale. His hands were shaking. His voice caught continuously in his throat, his anger so great. You should have been smart enough to realize that would never, ever be me! He barked the final words, and the surrounding echoes turned those barks into a vicious, snarling growl. The sound of his soul, if he believed in such a thing. I was never gonna be your Kweezinart Hatrack, and you should have replaced me. Benni remained silent, frozen to the spot beneath her central pool of light. Rune continued to stalk around her, rage ebbing and flowing as his thoughts spilled out in monologue. Where was High Dudgeon during those wars? Where were the Gesserets when the people needed them? We were here, protecting Ilmet. Ilmet didn't need protecting. He waved his arms in astonishment. Blarking, Sneak, Benni! Buildingstrom Hill is 10 clicks high. Ilmet is protected by the Ascent. It was insulated against both wars. Not a single day of commerce went interrupted. Why not put your great plan in motion when it was needed? He looked around. Benni stared back at him, her gaze hard but remaining silent. In their own thrones, in the shadows, the other Gesserets, the number of which he couldn't begin to guess, remained silent as well. I didn't fail you, and I sure as Snee didn't fail myself. I did what I had to do. I did what was in my nature. Said Benni, seeing a way back into the conversation. We were hoping you'd realize that was not your nature. That you were more than a killing machine. I was a survival machine, Benni, and I still am. Ha! She said, and that syllable too bounced around like a bark. You are used to war. You are not used to what always follows, what is now spreading across the lands like a disease. Which is? She smiled, showing all of her teeth twisting this way and that. Diplomacy. He waved a paw, dismissing her. I know all about diplomacy. She scoffed. It was a bad scoff, and she should have it looked at. You've never once faced a problem with a solution that didn't result in death. Certainly I have. Name a single time. Alright, there was, you can't, can you? Don't rush me. One single time when you didn't leave bodies on the floor. I gave a genie his freedom, and a disappointed mob ran you out of town. True, said Rune, but nobody died. You are still a thug. My point, exactly, but you could have been more. And I think I proved otherwise. In all this time, why haven't you found another dumb blurg to hang your hat on? Oh, but we have, said Benni, perhaps a little too quickly. Really? Another wolf, in fact. You don't say. What's his name? Fenrir. Fenrir. Good name. Fenrir what? Fenrir table? Fenrir fireplace? Fenrir glass? Norris! Rune stared at her. Great. All power to him. I'm leaving, Benni, and I won't be back. So can I use the door, or is this another sack on the head exit? Benni didn't move. Near the back of the room, a pitch-black door creaked open, and torchlight from the hallway peeked in. He waited. Nothing moved in the shadows. Apparently, he really was free to go. Fenrir Norris. Did the great narrator feed you that one? She froze, her face somehow even paler than before. The great narrator, he talks to you. You always told me to listen for it, or was that another method of controlling me? She shook her head but didn't speak. He laughed without humor. Ha! Apparently I'm his main character, so maybe you were right all along. He gave her a smile, as cruel a smile as he could possibly muster. Only the Kweezinart Hatrack, you see, she said, so often and so angrily, can hear the great narrator. Rune resumed his exit. Benni whispered, just loud enough for him to hear. They would have followed you. For the third time, Rune left High Dudgeon for the last time. Once again, he found himself on the pavement. Hey, who you talking to? The great narrator did not answer right away. It wasn't certain it was being addressed. Yeah, you are. Knock it off. Who are you talking to? I'm narrating your story, said the great narrator. Why? Again, the great narrator found itself in the curious and infinitely rare position of being at a loss for words. Because it's what I do. You narrate everybody's stories. It repeated, it's what I do. But not everyone can hear you. We've had this conversation before. I wasn't listening. Explain yourself. Very few can hear me, said the great narrator, puffing itself up. In fact, outside of the Gesserets. Barely 100 can. The Gesserets don't hear you. Not even Benni. Only the Kweezinart Hatrack has talent to. You can't predict the future. It wasn't a question. Nevertheless, I cannot. All you do is yammer about what's happening at the moment, no matter if I'm in battle or choosing wallpaper. You've never chosen wallpaper. Just yakking away at what I'm doing and not doing, or worse, saying what I'm thinking as I'm thinking it. Although sometimes you go away blissfully, so I'm assuming you're narrating someone else for a while. There was a defensiveness in the great narrator's omniscient voice. You're not the only protagonist in the universe, you know. Quiet. What I want to know, finally, now, and for blurging ever, what is the point of you? And the great narrator had no answer. For what could the answer possibly be? Rune waited, tapping his foot on the pavement. No response came. So how about you blurg off for a while and let me have some peace? Grudgingly, peevishly, the great narrator did just that. Chapter 11. Holy blurging snee, Miggins! Our main character just told the narrator to F off! Will the narrator come back? Will we get a new one? Or will this be the shortest adventure in history? Have no fear, fans and friends. Contracts have been signed and obligations will be met in the next frivolous installment of The Further Adventures of Rune.